Welcome everybody to Energy and Education. My name is Vincent Kelly. I begin today by acknowledging the Jagga and Turrbal people, traditional custodians of the land on which we gather here today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. A little bit about us. Thanks again for joining us today. My name is Vincent Kelly. I'm from Energy Action. A little bit about us. We're a company that has been around about 20, 21 years. Our aim is to take all of the heat, all of the stress, all the risk out of purchasing energy. We make energy easier, cleaner, and cheaper. And we do that by reducing the energy spend of Australian organisations, and our stated ambition is to help organisations achieve net zero. We just don't talk about it, we actually do it. We are an accredited net zero business. And along the way of those last 20 odd years, we've grown our business. We help around about 8,500, 9,000 clients with over 20,000 sites supported all over Australia. And those sites extend from SME all the way up to large clients. Some key points today, we'll be talking about net zero pathways. We'll be talking about is solar right for your business. That'll be taken up by Anastasi Kotorus. He'll be from Smart Energy. Solar. Energy procurement. You'll be listening to Rachel Kemp. She'll tell us how we can procure energy smarter and in a more sustainable fashion. We'll also be hearing from Katie Nicklin from EcoEducate, who will be giving first-hand experiences and about how students can get involved and schools can get involved in the sustainable drive. A little bit about us. My name is Vincent Kelly. I'm the Energy Solutions Manager here at Energy Action. Rachel Kemp, Business Development Manager at Energy Action. Katie Nicklin is heads up the team at EcoEducate, and Anastasi Kotorus is the head of marketing at Smart. Without further ado, I'll pass you over now to Katie Nicklin from EcoEducate.
Katie, you're on mute.
Thanks, Darcy. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this webinar. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's a pleasure for EcoEducate to partner with Energy Action. It's essential for us to be able to connect our clients with energy solutions like they offer. So I'm going to speak a little bit about who we are. We are an environmental consultancy and education provider, and we work really closely with schools, businesses, and even councils as well to provide quality consultancy and a tailored long-term solution to sustainability. So I thought, because what gathers us here today is the topic of education, and it also happens to be in our name, it's worthwhile spending a couple of minutes on why education is a focus and why educate at all. So there's a few reasons to flag here. So climate change education in itself is a powerful climate mitigation strategy. So we don't often think of it as such, but there's studies that have been done, and the graph to the right there shows you just how impactful that can really be. This is from a study done in a university setting, so tertiary education, where they looked at the potential of climate change education to impact the individual's emissions throughout their life. And if we were to assess that as we do with other mitigation strategies, where would it fall? And their studies brought us to conclude that climate change education can be just as impactful or just shy of afforestation as one of those techniques. So it's hard to quantify, but it is worthwhile just knowing how powerful education is in solving this problem. And it's very much at the preliminary stage of creating impact. So starting it at a young age is so powerful. That's so worthwhile noting. And we also know that that's just the one individual, but the nature of education is to really create a larger catalyst effect. So one individual educates one more, and we have what's called the ripple effect of change throughout a community. So the other thing that brings education to the forefront for EcoEducate is that we grew out of a strong education industry and this sector. So we have a really strong connection to it, and also understand it as a pretty powerful source of positive change, and also a powerful contributor. So the sector itself makes up it's the 5th largest emitter in the Australian industries as far as energy is concerned. So that just gives you an idea of the scale of our education industries in Australia, and both their impact as a contributor and a part of the solution. So it's amazing to gather today and discuss it a little bit more. So where we're operating as a company is certainly looking at how we can create more long-term solutions for both our corporates and our schools. So all of our clients, we recommend a blended approach of both top-down initiatives and bottom-up initiatives. So we really want to look at structural changes, strategy changes to a company. Those can be environmental management plans, reconciliation action plans, carbon footprinting, net zero planning, and then also more student-facing in the school space initiatives like workshops, presentations, educational courses, curriculum alignment, all these sorts of things that we can really bring to the student population in education industries. And certainly, as I said, it's the blended approach of both of those that really sees long-term success. So this is a graphic here that I showed to our clients who often haven't seen what can be possible and what the future looks like ahead for their education institution, whether that be primary, secondary, or tertiary. And what we've done is basically gather this into 5 steps and walking our clients through what this looks like. Again, it's not always linear, and this is a highly tailored approach that we like to give to clients. So a lot of this can be subject to change, and we also want to lead with the client's first priority, whatever that might be. But let's take this as an example and start with, building a strong foundation. We've put step 1 as establishing an environmental management plan. And I've put school there, but again, I want to speak to the tertiaries as well. Similarly, a reconciliation action plan. So both of these documents, the core purpose is to really align the organisation, the institution, their values, belief, mission, all of those things with an action plan for how they're implementing it in their campus, which is pretty exciting. It covers all sorts of different things. So that might be a principles statement, that might be the alignment to the Sustainable Development Goals, integration to curriculum, all of the different initiatives that are currently in place in that institution as well. And then to add more quantitative data to the next step, we look at a carbon footprint. So taking a full inventory of emissions associated with that institution that might cover across and certainly will cover across scopes 1, 2, and 3, with the vision to possibly take this to net zero in the future. But often we're approaching institutions who are doing this for the first time. So setting that up as a baseline as well. Step 3, we really look at a strategy for the way ahead. So we've got quantitative data and we've got qualitative data for the institution. And now we look at really aligning different interventions, was what we call them, to meet the goals of that institution. So it might be, and in fact, often is a blend of the 3 environmental outcomes that might be reducing emissions, economic outcomes, reducing spend, procurement spend and bills, and educational outcomes. So looking at increasing the climate literacy and sustainable practice that is in place in that organisation, in that institution. So this is such a key part, particularly for the webinar today, because we can't deliver all of these interventions alone. And in fact, industry partnership is so essential for us to be able to create a holistic approach here. So some of these EcoEducate proudly delivers, like our professional development, our curriculum alignment. We do waste audits, eco programs, Indigenous experiences, and other interventions. We really need to be able to connect our clients to people who provide in that area. So that is energy action in looking at energy contracts that meet the needs of the client, and certainly smart commercial solar to also be able to provide technology in the way of solar and other interventions too. So that's really looking at a very holistic approach. And certainly it sounds like a lot, but just to note that this is a commitment we make over a period of years. It's all about progress, not perfection. So starting somewhere, but this is where it can take you to. So the fourth step might be achieving net zero. When we've already got a carbon inventory of the institution and we've also got some interventions in place to reduce emissions, then whatever is left remaining, we purchase offsets for that client and look to achieve a net zero date for them. Now, to look at pie in the sky and where this can possibly go, the Australian government has a climate active sort of carbon neutral certification, and that's a voluntary acknowledgement of your institution's commitment to addressing climate change and being a leader in this area. So it's not always a straight away thing. It's definitely something to work towards. And proudly, Australia has one of the more rigorous certifications internationally. So it's amazing to see where we can take this to be a leader in the industry and a leader in best practice for sustainability if we want to get there and if we put it as a priority. So by that point, we've looked at a net zero date, we've built in Indigenous links, we have alignment to the SDGs, curriculum alignment as well, and we can also achieve carbon neutrality through the certification too. So that's a lot, and it's big picture, and it's if everything worked perfectly, but it's really important to be able to provide these steps to our clients to help them understand what the future can look like. Again, it is so tailored, and that's part of what we want to put in front of our clients, is ability to position this in relation to their unique goals and their values. But it's a graphic that often nobody's seen before, so it's exciting to showcase. All right, well, one of our case studies, so it's worthwhile just seeing how this has come into action. One of our amazing schools is Brisbane Girls Grammar School. And Rachel Fraser, who's the CFO, has put together some words. She's also stressed here in her testimonial that a research and evidence-based approach is so imperative for the school, and so is a clear framework and a clear pathway forward. She also sort of really stressed, and this is such a common hiccup for schools, or even a hurdle, if you will, that it's so important that those initiatives that they do put in place are embedded into the daily life of the school, rather than just being a fad or a flash in the pan. So easy for that to happen in our organisations, is for it to be forgotten, and we have to ensure that that has a long-term lifetime in it, anything we implement. This is the last paragraph. I'll read it because it's beautiful, but she says the greatest challenge has been the myriad of very exciting ideas and the ad hoc initiatives that are already in place, aligning these into a clear roadmap and framework without killing enthusiasm. I wonder how many people on the call might connect with that sentence. It's well written, and I think it speaks to a commonality in the industry. She says, understanding the language of carbon footprinting and how it's calculated is all new, and we're learning as we progress. EcoEducate is working with the school to assist all of these areas and further supporting the school's establishment of a baseline. Their roadmap has been invaluable. So this has been a fantastic school, and in every part of the process, I've worked with Rachel Fraser and also her entire staff of Sustainability Committee and also her student body to educate not only in implementing these interventions, but also in why we do it, in what is best practice in the industry, and how we can keep perfecting it and improving it as we progress. So I'd really encourage anyone on the call who would like to better understand why we do these things and where we're heading with it all to reach out and get in touch, because it's worthwhile starting the conversation, absolutely. And yeah, I'd love to chat to you further, but I'll pass back to the
Katie, I have a question from a listener, if you don't mind. You mentioned that education is the 5th highest producing industry in Australia. Do you know if that also includes tertiary education?
I don't, sorry. I'm referencing a sentence that actually said it was schools. So that leads me to believe it was secondary and primary, but yeah, it's worth following up. I'm sorry, I wish I knew. I'd have to go back and read the rest of the report.
No problem. I also have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would you say has been your experience on the biggest challenges that schools face trying to implement net zero?
Yeah, a good question. Rachel actually in the testimonial there highlights a few of them, but the nature of our schools is certainly one where they are quite cyclical. So it's often easy for programs to be forgotten the next year or even in 2 years' time. That's pretty normal to the nature of a school or a tertiary. And as well as that, I think we've had somewhat of a blotchy history of initiatives and resources available to our education industry that have been sort of coming and going with different political parties in the lead, and that can be a little bit confusing to follow. So having someone to hold your hand through the process is really valuable, I think. Yeah, it's certainly politically influenced. And as well, I've actually read an interesting article about why we don't see more success in or more progress in Indigenous education in Australia. And one of the big hurdles there was a lack of confidence from our educators and a lack of education in the pre-service space as well. So there's some really interesting hurdles that come up repeatedly from our clients, all of which I'd say are surmountable with the right approach.
Thank you.
So I might hand over to Stasi for smart commercial solar, if that's
Cheers.
You're ready.
Thanks, Katie. I'm in admiration of your presentation skills. Very good pace, good pace. I'm going to try and take a leaf out of your book because I tend to rush these things. But I'll do my best to communicate everything in a slow way. And by all means, if anyone has any questions or wants to go into some of the points raised in deeper discussion, I'm sure we'll send our contact information at the end of the webinar and just reach out to me personally. More than happy to have a chat. My name is Anastasi Kotorus. I'm the head of marketing at Smart Commercial Solar, and I've actually been working at Smart Commercial Solar for 6 years now. I've got quite a few experiences with schools personally, and look, I'll just jump in and give you a little rundown of what we do and take you through some of the outcomes. So who are we? Smart Commercial Solar was founded in 2012, so we're celebrating our 10-year birthday this year. We're independently owned, one of the few commercial solar companies that are independently owned. Is something that we're quite proud of. And at the moment, we've got 1,700 installs across every state and territory, which includes around 80 schools. So we've got lots of experience in the education sector from primary schools to universities. 2 of those schools actually were installed as part of our One Sun initiative, which is a kind of philanthropic arm of Smart, championed by Hewan, our MD. He went over to Vanuatu and donated a system and installed it on a couple of schools. And there's some massive benefit for those communities by installing solar there. And then this is something that we're committed to expand in 2023. So something I really wanted to kind of make note of is we truly act as a renewables partner. We're not a transactional business. We don't just install a system and see you later. We build relationships with our customers, and I know this is important within the education sector and for schools, and we back up our relationships with long-term monitoring and maintenance contracts performance guarantees. A lot of our customers are repeat customers. You know, we're expanding their existing solar systems, we're adding batteries, or we're proceeding to do more sites and rolling out solar across multiple schools and sites for them. So just within the education sector, I wanted to give you a quick snapshot of some of the schools that we've worked with. Western Sydney University, obviously quite a reputable university in New South Wales. That's a pretty big system, a 450 kilowatt system there. And also to note, One School Global have engaged us for a rollout of schools totaling 31 and total system size of 838 kilowatts. So this is kind of you know, an indication of what we do. We can manage multiple installations at once. Our project management strengths are definitely something that we push forward, and large scale complicated installs, you know, that might be multiple roofs, complicated electrical infrastructure on your site, and, you know, installing batteries and doing some other cool solutions down the line. So I wanted to just talk about this particular school, which is a client of mine. It's a school in Western Sydney, and it's interesting for a few reasons. So the first one is they had an existing 100 kilowatt system and they didn't know whether it was working. Unfortunately, this is something that I hear quite a lot with schools. This is definitely not the first time nor the last time I've heard that. And in fact, the 100 kilowatt system that was delivered about 5 years prior to us meeting these guys, it was a non-compliant install. The inverters had failed. There was no monitoring. The school had no idea whether it was on or off, and you know, they were left in the dark, and that was because the company that installed it just simply didn't do the right monitoring and maintenance on the system. We came to site, did an audit, and you know, identified that the system was actually better disposed of and to be replaced. Now, I will note, we don't throw anything into landfill. Every part of that system was recycled. This is a really important key part of our mission. We have a great recycling partner, and all the rail inverters and solar panels were recycled. We then did an assessment of their energy consumption and found actually they needed a 300 kilowatt system. So we tripled the system size. And also at that time, the school was looking at LED lighting. They had a few other projects on. I think they were actually building another school. So capital at that time was quite competitive. And, you know, solar was just one project in a whole mix of projects that they were assessing. So in talking to them, and I normally deal with a business manager at a school because it ends up being a financial decision, although we'll talk about some of the environmental outcomes as well. You know, assessing the capital outlay for a 300 kilowatt system versus LED lighting and the removal and replacement of the system, it was a large amount. So we actually spoke to the school about a power purchase agreement, and this enabled them to avoid any upfront capital. We removed and recycled the system, installed a 300 kilowatt system, and wrapped in an LED lighting upgrade, all under a power purchase agreement, which means the school just buys the electricity the system generates. Now, that energy rate, or the PPA rate from the solar system, is 50% cheaper than their retail energy rate. So great result, cash flow positive. The upgrades were all wrapped into the PPA, and for the length of the term, the school doesn't, they don't incur any operational maintenance costs. It's all baked in. The other really cool thing about this system is the monitoring. And I think this is important for schools. And, you know, I mentioned that this school had no visibility on the system's performance, and they weren't actually sure whether it was working. we always install monitoring, and I think this particular example is interesting because we're able to push data through a TV into classrooms, into a foyer. There's, you know, obvious STEM applications for solar, and then the sustainability and environmental part as well. But I think this is a really cool way of, you know, taking a environmental initiative and pushing it into the classroom. We will gladly work with you and EcoEducate on lesson plans and integrating the solar into the educational outcomes as well. So this is something that we've worked on with other schools in the past. You can see, you know, the generation of the system will monitor particular sustainability or ESG metrics. And this is just a kiosk view, but teachers will also get a login so they can get a lot more data out of this as well. So some schools may have heard of a power purchase agreement before. I wanted to just quickly outline what it is, because it's quickly becoming the most popular procurement method for schools at the moment, especially when there's you know, capital competition. A power purchase agreement avoids that upfront cost. You just buy the energy that the solar system generates, and on average, it's about 50% cheaper than your daytime electricity rate. The unique thing about our PPA is that it's a community funded model. So we work with Clear Sky Solar Investments, which are a non-for-profit organization. They set up these funds, and investors from the community, anyone, actually, if you're on this webinar and you're interested, look up Clear Sky Solar Investments, register, and you'll see a project as it comes up. You're eligible to invest in that project. And I think it's a really cool way of getting parents and friends and the community around the school to invest in a sustainability project that the school delivers. So here are just a couple examples. Now, a PPA can scale down and it can scale up. These are just solar. However, like I mentioned before, we're able to wrap in batteries, LED lighting. If you require a roof upgrade or MSB upgrade, like an electrical upgrade, that can also get bundled into the PPA. And just to quickly go through, it's a 10-year term. Your 100 kilowatt energy rate is around 20 cents. The PPA rate spat out at about 9 cents. So for the first year of operation, this customer was $11,000 cash flow positive. And you can see over a 10-year term, there's considerable energy savings to be made, no operation and maintenance costs, and you don't spend anything up front. So I think this is a really good model for schools to look at when considering a solar investment. And just to finalize this presentation, I wanted to allude to, you know, what's the next step after solar? Because many schools actually have a solar system. I wonder if they know if it's working. If you don't know if it's working, definitely send us an email and we'll get our service team to do a quick audit of it. But solar represents a really logical and sensible first step. You're able to achieve 30% energy reduction, some strong CO2 emission reductions, a really good monitoring. And that is critical in the next stage, which is assessing how much more solar you need and what size battery you need. So we say next because batteries aren't exactly commercially viable right now. There's still a 10-year plus payback attached to batteries. However, we expect in the next couple of years, the price of batteries to come down, or you may be experiencing considerably higher energy rates. Now, if that's the case, expanding your solar and storage might make sense now. And on average, we're seeing schools going about 70% off-grid. So that's a really great result for your climate active certification. and integrating to that third step of the EcoEducate sustainability plan. By working with Energy Action, where we're able to also build in offsite renewables, and if it's of value and the school has a target of meeting 100% renewables on site, we can do that with the procurement and partnering with Energy Action. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of what we do and some of the outcomes attached to solar systems. Like I said, any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or we can pick it up offline. Thank you.
Anastasi, a question has just come through about the current market and how that applies to solar. Does solar represent a good investment right now?
100%. I believe you're referring to the increase in prices across the energy market.
I believe that's where the question comes from, yeah.
Yeah. So, look, the long story short is it accelerates your solar payback quite considerably. Where we had customers sitting at about a 5 or a 6 year payback for a solar system, it's now 3-4 years. So there's definitely a case to be made for solar makes more sense than ever right now. Am I handing back over to you, Rachel?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rachel. You may know me as the person on the end of the phone querying your energy goals and your net zero goals. Helping people and businesses achieve their net zero targets is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really excited to be working with both EcoEducate and Smart Commercial Solar to help businesses achieve those goals. Just a bit of a touch up on what's happening in the market at the moment as it's relevant to everybody. What we're seeing is that pricing, unfortunately, has risen back to June and July levels. As you can see here, this blue line represents where we're at with the market. We saw a little bit of a decline over the August period, which made everyone a little bit excited, but we're back up again at high prices, and this is across all states, as you can see. The reason behind this volatility is that basically there's a huge demand. We've got a lack of supply as a result of the war in Ukraine. We've got some queries around what's happening with the gas supply onshore and offshore, and retailers are quite hesitant to do anything until there's a bit more of reassurance into supply in the grid. These pricing, we're looking at New South Wales is currently sitting at $70 a megawatt or 7 cents per kilowatt in this month, whereas last month, it was a little bit less. Looking at future years, calendar 24 and calendar 25, which was represented by the orange and green lines, are, as you can see, we're tracking along pretty much the same last year in terms of pricing through 23, 24, 25. As 23 pricing increases, we're actually seeing that 24, 25 pricing is following. Based on this, our recommendations for anyone exposed to Cal 23, 24 prices is to look at extending contracts out to at least 2025, because we envision that these pricing levels will be up around the 23 levels come next year, unfortunately. How we can help you at Energy Action with your energy procurement, we have a couple of different options. Our reverse auction platform is something that is unique to Energy Action. It's a live process where we take your site to tender to a panel of up to 12 retailers. As I said, the auction is live, and participants are given a 10-minute window where they can bid their best and lowest. We generally find that on average, this reverse auction platform generates a bidding difference of 20% from the first to the final bid. So it does create competition, and it's also a quick process rather than going individually to retailers and taking the time to do that. We have 10 minutes where everybody gives all of their pricing at the same time. We also can do a request for proposal. Doesn't matter how detailed your energy portfolio is, we can recommend the best time to buy and turn it into a clear buying proposition for you. And the same thing, we then take that tender request out to up to a panel of 15 retailers who then submit their tenders. And this obviously encourages, again, a highly competitive environment. Index buying is a new product that's come out onto the market, which is for anyone that uses consumers over 500 megawatt hours. Basically, it plays along the spot market, giving you an agreed margin. So if the market is high, you'll be paying high prices, but if the market is low, you're paying low prices, and you can fix that in for a contract period, subject to the market movement. If the market hits favourable conditions, then you can opt out of the index buying prospect and lock in contracts at that lower rate. So it helps with, with businesses that are using a great amount of energy and have that flexibility. Our green options is similar to fossil-based contracts. It's about 2 to 5 years, and it's helping you achieve those net zero goals. You have the opportunity as well of perhaps selecting percentages throughout the contract of your green energy percentage. As an example, if you're not budgeting net zero targets until 2025, you can opt for 25% green power next year, 50% the year after, 100% the year after that, depending on your budgets. Not all retailers actually will offer that, but some do, so it's worthwhile keeping in mind. We can also look at purchasing corporate power purchase agreements where it's a fixed price, fixed term with the green power as well. We also can help your schools and your business managers with energy management reporting for those people that have multi-site businesses. This our energy metrics portal is a fantastic offering to help you track all of your bills in the one spot for each site. It's also an amazing reporting capabilities in terms of tracking usage, spend, and carbon emissions, which is going to be pretty crucial coming up, and also obviously for helping people achieve net zero. We run bill validation services. Sometimes retailers can get it wrong. They can overcharge or undercharge, and we use the interval data that comes through from your retailer to ascertain what the usage should be and whether you're being billed accordingly. And then we follow up with the retailer to ensure that you are then compensated accordingly. We also run an annual network tariff review and help with budget and forecasting. The certificate management as well can help you with your net goals. We can help you create, purchase and surrender certificates. This is the purchase of renewable energy certificates, voluntary carbonisation strategies, and renewable energy certificates, registry and account management, all depending on the site, the size of the portfolio, as well as the number of sites. There's many options that we can help you with. Does anyone have any questions? I'll just finish up with a case study we did with the University of New South Wales. We arranged a solar power purchase agreement with University of New South Wales, which allowed them to secure carbon emission-free electricity, obviously at a cost which was economical for them. They purchased approximately 1,024,000 megawatts of renewable energy per year for 15 schools, which was sourced from Sunraysia's solar farm, Mayonegs, which was a 200 megawatt solar farm. On your screen here, you'll see a QR code. If anybody would like to scan that and enter in your details, someone from Energy Action will be in touch to have a chat about your energy and net zero goals.
And now it's back to me. Are there any more questions from the audience? Do we have any more questions coming through? There's one for Stasi. You're the popular guy today, Stasi. Is it a good time during the summer holidays? Is that the best time to install panels on the at a school, given the fact that it's a long holiday, I'm assuming?
Yeah, look, we always we'll work with the school on the most appropriate time to install. That happens to be during school holidays. I would note that through the summer break, you've got a Christmas break and early January where minimal construction happens, but we will do our best to make sure there's no disruption to the school and schedule the install through a holiday period.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, that about wraps us up, I think. We're getting to unintended echo. It's been a challenge of technical proportions today. But thank you for your attendance. Hopefully, everyone's gotten something valuable out of the chat today. Thank you so much, Anastasi, for your input, and to you, Katie Nicklin. It was wonderful. If there are any questions, anything you'd like to know, please feel free to contact us. We're contactable through the webinar detail contact page, and we'd be happy to take your calls and your questions. And on that note, I'll thank you and bid you all fond farewell. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.